Have you heard of IONITY? You probably have if you've been watching my show for a while, but I would argue that they are probably one of the most important companies for the electric car universe because they're essentially building out a fast charging network, which will be an alternative to Tesla Superchargers in Europe. And of course, with all of the cars that are coming out, and some of them are already out, all electric cars like Audi, Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Nissan, and so forth, that will be capable of fast charging. Well, this is very important. I recently met my very first IONITY charging station at the Audi event and even took a selfie right here. So I think this is very important. And I'm so excited to have Paul Entwistle, their head of communications, as my guest today. So I'm going to ask him some questions so we can all learn more about this. And especially if you live in Europe, this is definitely an important information for you guys. But even if you live in the United States, Canada, or other areas, very similar scenario is going to unfold. So definitely pay attention. And we're going to start right now.
Taking over the world, electrifying the world, electric.
Welcome to those of you who are watching me for the first time. If you're interested in getting up to date on everything that's going on in the world of electric cars, well, you came to the right place. So just go ahead and click on that subscribe button down there so you don't miss anything moving forward. And let me remind you that this show and this channel is sponsored by Evonix, the aftermarket accessories for Tesla. There is a discount code in the description of this video so you can save yourselves a few bucks. All right, let's talk about IONITY and let's talk to Paul Entwistle, who is the head of communications for IONITY. Paul, welcome to the show.
Hi, Alex. How are you?
Good, good. All right. Well, I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. So first things first, you guys are a baby of 4 different automakers, but you're essentially still a startup.
That's what it feels like, and that's what we are. Basically, we were founded as a company in November 2017 by Ford, Daimler, BMW Group, and Volkswagen Group. That's including Audi and Porsche. So yeah, we're a small, young, dynamic concern trying to change the world.
Well, and boy, you might be one of the most essential companies right now for the electric car community. And do you feel the pressure because Mercedes-Benz has just unveiled their EQC and they featured you guys heavily. Audi also unveiled their e-tron and they've featured you heavily. Do you feel the pressure?
Yeah, it's on. I mean, we're on a mission, but basically our job is to build 400 charging stations across Europe by 2020. And of course, our shareholders, our car companies are bringing the vehicles to market now. So yeah, we certainly do feel the pressure, but it's good pressure because we think we can change something in the perception of e-mobility across the European continent. And of course, the interest across the world is pretty enormous as well. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation today.
Now, right, and so let me ask you this: Tesla obviously went ahead with their own supercharger network because at that time there was basically no alternative anyway. Why do you think the manufacturers, especially legacy manufacturers that do have the money, wouldn't do it on their own, and they kind of wanted to invest into you guys to kind of fight their battle, if you will?
Well, I think credit be where credit's due, or credit is certainly to Elon Musk and the guys at Tesla for doing what they've done. I think what we want to do is open it up a little bit more. One of the aspects of what we're doing is using the combined charging system. So we actually have a plug that is available to more than one manufacturer. I think the only way you can change the parameters of e-mobility at the moment is to be as open to as many manufacturers as possible. And clearly, the European Direct Solution with the CCS plug is one way of doing that. So no, we're open to as many manufacturers as possible, and we're hopefully going to change the way e-mobility is perceived across Europe.
Right, and just to clarify, these stations are going to be available not just for those 4 companies that invested into you guys. It's going to be available to everybody else, including Tesla owners. Isn't that right?
If Tesla, for example, equipped their vehicles with a CCS plug, then yes, they could charge no problem whatsoever at our stations. But I mean, it boils down to the vehicles being equipped with the CCS plug. If that plug is on the vehicle, then they can use our stations. If not, they'd struggle to charge.
But isn't there an adapter that people can go from the Teslas to the CCS?
I hear of adapters, but I'm not aware of anything actually on the market at the moment. And of course, what we're talking about is the one differentiator with our system. We're putting 350 kilowatts through our chargers. That's a lot of power. And I'm not sure that there's an adapter on the market that can handle that, but maybe there is someone out there that can say there is, but I don't know of one at the moment.
Well, let's talk about that because you guys can actually charge cars with a much higher power than Tesla. I believe Tesla can do it at 120 kilowatts, and you guys are aiming at anywhere between 150 to 350. Is that correct?
That's correct. Our chargers are all rated for 350 kilowatts with liquid cooled cables. We've got three manufacturers in total out there that are supporting us in the stations we've already built. So we will be offering 350 kilowatts across the board at every individual charging point. That's no loss in power when more than one vehicle is at a charging station. So a charging station that's equipped with anything up to 6 charging points on average, with a few stations with considerably more than that, clearly because demand in those markets is greater. But every charging point will offer 350 kilowatts, come what may.
And Audi is already taking advantage of that. Their Audi e-tron is going to be capable of 150 kilowatts, which is already more than Tesla, and obviously that's going to grow. Okay, so now Tesla, last time I checked, has over 400 locations with, my notes say, over 3,200 charging stalls at this point. And obviously there are way more Teslas in Europe than any other electric vehicles that are capable of fast charging, but that's going to change. Tell me about your plans for this year. I know we only have a few months to go, but also for 2019 and 2020, where a lot of these new non-Tesla alternatives are going to be on the market, and they will be able to actually take that kind of charge power.
Yeah, I mean, clearly we have ambitious targets that have been set for us, and we're setting ourselves. But the plan for 2018 is to be hitting 3 figures by the end of the year across Europe. It sounds like it's a lot from where we currently are at the moment, because we have 10 stations up and running as of today. But one of the aspects of building a network like this is there's considerable effort is expounded on getting the permits required across 24 countries, the building regulations in 24 countries being very different. Of course, we've spent a long time in negotiations with many companies across Europe. We're now actually starting to build the stations. So we're pretty confident that we'll be hitting 3 figures by the end of the year. And towards the end of 2019, we'll be well above our targets. And we already have 300 sites under contract across Europe. And of course, we're targeted to build at 400 sites. So as I say, we're quite confident that we will reach those targets, certainly by 2020.
And so if you were talking about by the end of this year, you're saying 3 figures, and I'm not very good with math, even though I'm Russian. So we're talking about 100 or so, correct?
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. And essentially what you're saying is that once you finally get a permit and figure everything out for one in each country, the rest are much easier to figure out, and it's just a matter of getting locations.
Finding the locations was the initial stage one of the hardest tasks, because obviously we're looking for locations directly on the highways. We want locations that are convenient for customers. In one country, we're actually looking at some locations just off the motorways where the permits are easier to get. But as a rule, all our sites across Europe are literally right on the motorway. And we're working together with very, very good infrastructure partners in every country. The people operating the service stations, I mean, they know what they're doing. They've got great amenities. They've got great restaurants. As a rule, the charging station is literally within walking distance and visible distance of the main restaurant and amenities facilities on the service stations. So for us, it makes a lot of sense to work with these people because, they've been in the business of infrastructure for a long time.
Okay, so by the end of 2019, you said about 400, maybe more locations, right? So how many stalls would that be? How many actual charging stations?
2,400. It's 2,400 stations, 2,400 chargers across, as I say, 400 stations. And the plan is, obviously, we're building at the moment. Some of our stations, we've already got 4 chargers in place, where ultimately we will have 6. where we will have stations in some countries with considerably more, as I said before, regarding potential demand. A very good example is Norway, because clearly Norway is much further down the road of e-mobility than the rest of Europe. And there, our first station in Norway will have 12 chargers as opposed to 6.
Okay, so do you think you will ever have an issue like, Tesla had an issue about a year ago when there were too many cars and there were lines and at the superchargers and so forth? Or do you think you'll be able to be a little bit ahead of the curve as all of these cars are coming out? And, there's also, not just the luxury brands, there's Kia and Hyundai and Nissan that are also coming out with their own fast charging technologies. Do you think you will ever run into a problem with lines and overcrowded stations?
I need to eat my fortune teller cookie first. I think as far as the developments are concerned in e-mobility, I think it's going to be a couple of years before we have that kind of situation developing. There are a lot of BEVs coming, but clearly the market at the moment there's a lot of room for maneuver, as they say. So I don't see the queuing problem being a problem across Europe in the short term. But as you know, it's already an issue in Norway. I mean, Norway has pretty huge impact of e-mobility in society. I think they're sort of heading towards 35-37% of new registrations of vehicles in Norway. But we're quite away from that, certainly in the rest of Europe. But no, you're right to say at some stage it will happen.
Okay, and then so just to understand, Tesla Superchargers are most of the time, especially right now, are free. It is already changed, and especially with Model 3. But you guys will charge from the very beginning because you're running a business, obviously. And tell me about I know they vary. The rates will vary from country to country, but with the price of gas and petroleum in Europe, how much cheaper is going to be to fast charge it at your stations compared to equivalent amount of fuel, gas fuel that people would need to use?
Well, we've launched with what we call a flat fee, a session fee. So basically, people who are charging in the IONITY stations that are now up and running pay a flat fee of €8 across Europe, with some regional variation depending on currency. Of course, it's £8 in Great Britain. It's 8 Swiss francs in Switzerland. But the flat fee is across the board. So there's transparency there. People pay the same fee regardless of which country they're in. There are good reasons for that. For us, it was very important to introduce a fee so we can actually get our systems up and running in the background so that we know that they're running properly. The booking of charging is a completely separate issue from just building the stations as well. So I think those systems are now up and running, and every station that comes online as built immediately goes into a booking mode as well. So we had an initial phase where stations going online were offering a free of charge phase. We've stopped that, and we're now moving into a mode which obviously our shareholders find good because they think they want us to make money at this. And I want to make the point that charging on the highway is not a charitable organization. It's a premium service. It's a fast service. It'll be a comfortable service, and it'll be something that people will benefit from, because obviously as the vehicles come online, as the more and more cars coming with 400 volt technology and 800 volt technology, cars will be able to charge faster. And I think it's only fair that we have an appropriate price for that.
And is this per charge, or is it per, like, what is the €8 per?
It's a session fee. The moment you take that plug, the moment you put that plug into the car, the session begins, or just after, and then when you take the plug out, the session ends. So it's completely separate of the amount of power going through the plug, and it's not time relevant either. At some stage through 2019, that will change, because it's all to do with the charging of direct current charges in Europe. At the moment, there is no calibration of those charges. So we have the opportunity in legal terms to actually charge a session fee. But at some stage through 2019, that will change, and we will have to charge kilowatt per hour fees. But obviously that's coming in the future. It's not relevant at the moment.
Okay, so basically your battery is going to be better be as empty as possible to take the full advantage of the fee. Okay, all right, fair enough. Now, and yes, I've heard that shareholders do like companies that make profits. I think Elon just learning that with all of us now. Okay, so fair enough. Now and will you charge the idle fees? Because obviously with superchargers there was a problem, and Tesla actually upped the fees just like last week when people just kind of plug it in and then walk away for a few hours or stay overnight at the hotel. I am guilty of that. Will there be idle fees at some point?
Yes, there will.
Great answer.
I mean,
Fair
I
enough.
mean, yeah, it's an issue, and it's something that everybody who's ever seen a space that's been occupied either by a vehicle that's now fully charged, or even a vehicle that's not even an electric vehicle, it's frustrating in the extreme. So yes, we've decided the idle fee we will have to charge it, and it'll be booked through to the customer, and it's a fair way of dealing with a problem. We're not talking about parking spaces in front of our charging stations. They're actually charging stations, not parking spaces.
Which brings me to the next question. How are you going to deal with big trucks, gas trucks that are obviously going to park in those spots? Will there be policy on that? Because I'm tired of approving pictures on my Facebook group for Tesla owners where all these gas cars just like insist on parking in those spots, driving people crazy. What are you guys going to do about those?
It's a very good question, and we're already addressing it with some of our early stations in France, where we can actually place one charger longitudinally as opposed to having it fixed at the end of a parking space. So it gives vehicles that are slightly larger, such as a sort of a small light truck configuration, or maybe something that's towing a trailer of some kind, where the charge point maybe is further down the vehicle. It gives them room for maneuver to move into the space and charge comfortably. So yes, some of our stations, one of which has already been opened in France, has this charging opportunity, and it gives the customer a little bit more maneuver space.
Now, can I propose something? And all I want is just a small fee for this idea. But what if you put a basket of eggs next to each stall, and if there's ever an ICE car that's parked there, you just egg the hell out of it, and we're even. How's that? Huh?
I think that's a wonderful idea. I'm all for using eggs at political events. So yeah, let's do it.
Excellent. All right. Well, just like I said, I will charge you also a flat small fee for
Your
that.
idea. Okay, you've got the intellectual property on that one. Okay.
Excellent. All right. Well, so let's talk about something else. Will you guys, when people will get an account with you guys, obviously, will they get like a card or a fob, or will there be like an electronic handshake between where you just kind of plug it in and your charging station will know which car this is if it's registered to my account? How would I be able to kind of have my account and use it at your stations?
Well, currently authentication is via RFID chips, and there's the opportunity to register with us. We have a website, and our chargers are equipped with QR codes. But in future, I think what we want to go for is the simple system of plug and charge. You plug your vehicle in, the vehicle connects automatically with the back end of the charger. You've registered your payment details already, and all you need to do is just let it charge and not worry about it. So so long as you've got some cash on your account, you're good.
Excellent. All right, so let me ask you about, right now you have obviously 4 investors, and they're pretty powerful investors. But I've heard you guys are actually open to more. Is that true, first of all? And secondly, is there any sort of conversations that you've already having with maybe Tesla or others where they can, invest a little bit more in you guys, and maybe the process will go faster and more people will benefit?
Well, I mean, we're an open system. Our qualifier is the CCS plug. So if there are manufacturers out there that are interested in getting the benefit of access to the chargers and want to work with us, we're absolutely open for any form of strategic partnership. Clearly, there are conversations, but I can't tell you here and now for all the usual reasons, because those conversations are actually happening at the moment. But no, we're open, and we would welcome partnerships with manufacturers and others.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited about that. So if you will see the need that, maybe at the rate that you guys are going, maybe not enough, maybe this whole electric car revolution will go faster than we really thought, would you guys be able to up the rate at which you're building? I know you said, there obviously permits and locations and stuff like that. Is this a matter of just timing like that? Is it a matter of a bureaucracy? Is it a matter of more investment and stuff like that? What prevents you guys from just like absolutely blanketing the entire Europe with your stations?
Well, currently it's the weather. I mean, as long as we can build, we build, and once it gets cold, digging holes in the ground is hard work. So we're on a timetable at the moment as long as we can in certain parts of Europe. Where once the temperature starts to fall below zero, it's difficult to build, and of course in places in Scandinavia where you've got bedrock, it's more complex putting holes in the ground too. But in terms of ramping up stations for the future, I mean, we've already got a plan to ramp up certain stations where we perceive demand will increase as more and more vehicles come on the market. But our average sites will have six chargers per site. So we think we're pretty good for the initial phase, but it all depends on how dramatic and dynamic the take-up is of the vehicles coming to the market. I mean, I've just seen, for example, what one manufacturer, Volkswagen, is doing in Germany at the moment, and I think they've got a pretty ambitious plan across the board to provide vehicles that will address the needs of a whole bunch of segments of the market. So I think if they achieve their timetable targets, and I'm pretty certain they will, then there's going to be a lot of dynamic in this. It's going to be a pretty fast-moving market in the very near future, because I think people are also ready for change. What's happening in terms of quality of air in the cities and events all around diesel and other power plants. So I think there's a lot of movement in that market. I think people are just watching and waiting to see how quickly and how dynamically certain manufacturers get onto this.
And I wanted to clarify something. So right now, pretty much all electric cars and plug-in hybrids, they use lithium-ion battery technology. At some point in the next few years, we might actually start moving to the solid-state battery technology. I just wanted to clarify: would your stations work with all of those electric cars, regardless of what kind of battery technology they have?
To my knowledge, yes. I'd have to check with the technicians in the office here, but in terms of the battery technology, they would work. I mean, for us, the key factor is the plug. I mean, as long as we have that CCS plug on board, then yes, we will be able to charge. And obviously, as battery capacities start to increase, then the relevance of our system increases to the same level. I mean, we're talking about 350 kilowatts at the moment, and it may seem quite a way in the future before all vehicles are offering that. But you've seen how technology moves on at a fairly rapid pace. It seems like only yesterday people saying that 50 kilowatts is kind of the be all and end all, but clearly we've moved beyond from that already.
Now, we started the conversation with obviously me pointing out the obvious that all of these manufacturers are kind of relying on you building up this fast charging network because they need that to compete with Tesla. Now I know Elon Musk disagrees that their supercharging network is their main sort of a competitive advantage. I think he knows it's not true. It really is their main advantage, and obviously that's a deal breaker to a lot of people as far as buying non-Tesla cars. But why do you think people are really stuck on this when most people don't take more than 1% of their time when they travel? And when they do travel, a lot of times they, especially in Europe, they might travel by train, they might get a rental car and so forth. Why do you think people are stuck on needing that peace of mind, knowing that they will have fast charging networks, everywhere they go?
I get what you say, and I think let me try and answer that question with a question back. Why do people go for a smartphone? Why have people embraced the iPhone over the last few years with features probably above and beyond what they require for their everyday? It's because I think people are into a mode of come into a mode where the convenience of it all is what what really appeals. Now, we're very aware that the long distance journey is only 5 to 10% of most mobile drivers' requirements. But when they're on that motorway, they want that convenience. They want that sense of comfort and being able to not having to worry about the hassles that currently are a feature of e-mobility on the long distance routes. And I think we believe that will be a game changer within this part of the segment. And the follow on from that is that because it will be considered more convenient on the long distance, I think there will be a move across the board, because at some stage, in the not too distant future, 350 kilowatts will be the norm and not this kind of reaching for the stars.
Okay, so obviously, having a fast charging network is important to a lot of people, but at the same time, the electric car sales are still only about 1 to 2% of all global sales, which is still a niche, if you will. What do you think needs to change, besides you guys working faster, of course, to convince people that all electric cars is the technology of the future and those cars are better in many different ways? What else is missing?
Well, I think at the moment it's the ease. Anybody who's sat in and driven a battery electric vehicle or a plug-in hybrid and has embraced that kind of sense of that elation that you get, obviously, with the performance side of it, that's only one aspect of it. The other sense is the total cost of ownership of the vehicle. These vehicles will be a radical change to consumers, and there's also a challenge for the industry to embrace that radical change. But in terms of absolute packaging and the way we design vehicles and the way we use vehicles, and that's also tied in with all the aspects of autonomous driving too, I think vehicles are going to become a much more central part of our way of life. I mean, I was looking at the plans, and it's nothing new, but if you actually look how an electric vehicle can support a family, for example, how many houses are without power at the moment across the USA because of storms. And just imagine that your electric vehicle could actually support you there where the grid's down. I mean, that would be an immense benefit to lots of families. And say the statistics I've been seeing, a vehicle of that kind of typical 125 kilowatt range power range capacity could support a family, could actually be the power source for a normal family house for over a week. I think that's remarkable, and it's not a new story, but it shows you how the car can actually assume a completely different role in society. And I think once people start to embrace that, you'll see the take-up rates changing. I mean, cars have been great in terms of getting people mobile, but don't forget, cars at the moment spend a great deal of time not doing anything. I think if we can actually get vehicles out there helping in much more different ways, via autonomous facilities, via longer ranges and less cost of ownership over the total life cycle of the vehicle, this will be the revolution that people are looking for.
I like how we're treating our cars now like, a teenager. Say, why don't you get a job? You're sitting there doing nothing. Why can't you power my house or, do some ride sharing? Meanwhile, pay for yourself. Hey, listen, that's,
I mean, you're sitting in the garage sleeping the whole time, all night. What a waste of time.
I know. I totally agree. Let's put them to work. All right. Well, my last question, and I'm afraid I know the answer to that right now, but I'm going to ask anyway. Are you guys going to come here? Can you guys come here to you? I'm saying, can you guys come here to the United States? We kind of need you guys here as well. I know we have Electrify America and everything, but have you guys ever considered coming, overseas here?
I think about it every day. However,
me too.
We have a job.
Too.
We have a mission. We have a mission until 2020. We're in Europe. What happens after then is anybody's guess. But our job at the moment is occupying us every day. So once we get that done, and it's an ambitious target, but we're on target to achieve it, then let's talk about other markets.
All right. Well, fair enough. But if you guys ever, drinks are on us. How's that?
Jolly good. I look forward to having a drink with you in California. That would be the crowning glory.
Or in Germany once I get there one of these days,
You know what's happening this week? It's the Oktoberfest, and there's a beer waiting for you.
Well, now you're just baiting me. I mean, now I really feel bad. I'm here in Sacramento now. Oh, all right. Well, fair enough. I will try to get there at some point, whether it's October or not. But all right, listen, we can obviously talk all day. But I mean, thank you for all of the information. Looking forward to this as a hopefully future e-tron owner. Obviously, this is important for me and a lot of other people. So thank you for taking your time. I hope to meet you in person. I hope to have another conversation. I hope to check out one of your stations in person one of these days. But yeah, thank you for being on the show, and good luck to you.
Cheers, Alex. Thanks for the opportunity to talk. It was good fun.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it. I am very excited about this because, as you guys know, I'm rooting for all of the brands out there that are producing good all electric cars, and I think I see more and more of them coming out. And of course, what's missing is the alternative to fast charging network to the superchargers that Tesla has developed so rapidly. And basically, I believe, I know Elon doesn't maybe believe, but I believe this is basically their biggest competitive advantage, and something that hopefully some of the other brands will get in the IONITY network in Europe. And here in the United States, we have Electrify America that's kind of doing the same thing. I will do a separate story on them. But for now, if you guys have any questions, obviously put them in the comment section. I'll either ask Paul to maybe comment, or maybe we'll even do a follow-up video. Other than that, I will see you guys next time, and remember to stay charged.